In a world where most people watch movies and then forget about them, these brave heroes join forces to watch them again and then talk about them. Join them in their epic journey as they go back in time, a decade and beyond, to revisit and break down films from a vast array of genres. Do these movies hold up over time? Are they classics? Find out on Retro Movie Roundtable. Starring your hosts, Brian Fry, Chad Robinson, Dustin Melbardis, Nathan Lutz, and Russell Guest. Coming now to headphones in your ears.
Welcome, all you lords, ladies, and knights, to the Retro Movie Roundtable. Welcome to the show where we watch movies and then talk about them. I'm your host, Russell Guest, and joining me today from deep in the heart of Texas, Mr. Dustin Melbardis. How you doing, sir?
Great. Ready to start.
I am excited today, Dustin. We are bringing back a third timer here. He's made some great episodes with us before. Mr. Tyler Harlow, now from the Denver, Colorado location, previously from California. Increased your elevation. Does that make your movie credibility go up too?
I wish. If anything, it's kind of limited me from what I've been able to see. Stuff comes out here a little bit after I would normally have watched them in LA, so I just have to be patient now.
Yeah, so remind everybody here, for those who don't remember, you help write for After the Credits blog. Tell people about that. It's
my movie review website. It's something that I kind of have been trying to do ever since I was in college, but once I moved out to LA and started working at a movie theater and had just a lot of access to movies and everything, I just decided, hey, I need to put my thoughts down, and people always ask me what I think about movies anyway. Yeah, I just figured I'd beat them to the punch and be like, oh, there's a review coming soon.
All right. And of all the people we have on, you're probably the only person who has seen more movies than Brian Fry. So
I do enjoy catching up on movies with Brian and books. He's really good at recommending books for me to read.
But this is a book-free episode, isn't it, Dustin?
It is.
There'll be no reading and no learning here.
Not an episode of Retro Book Roundtable, which Fry keeps suggesting. Not a bad idea, but not my idea.
Let's break the ice here. What is a movie that you were excited for, Tyler, but it was not what you thought it would be?
I'd say recently a movie that wasn't what I thought it was going to be probably was my more recent movie that I saw, which was Uncharted. I didn't play the games, but I had it kind of built up in my brain what I thought I was getting, and what I got was a disappointment, I would say.
So he wanted Uncharted, and they gave him Charted instead, which was the opposite of what he wanted. So the whole movie was nothing but charts.
Which was crazy for a 2-hour-long movie. It was just like, how many charts could they... Oh, yeah, there's another one. Wow. Where'd they get that?
They're really getting a lot of use of this pie. Oh, great. Bars?
Dustin, how about you? What's a movie that you saw that excited you, but, you were disappointed by it?
From 2017, The Dark Tower with Idris Elba and McConaughey. I was really excited about it. I'm not the biggest Stephen King fan, but I am a Stephen King fan. And so, should I have been excited about this? Or should the fandom have been excited about this? Probably no. But when you're given, this is such a cool property, and it's so impactful to the readers of it. We just said this was a no book episode. Sorry.
No, you indulge.
It was awful. I really didn't care for it, and it did make money, right? It had a pretty big budget, and it made an extra $50 million. So it made money, but it just it really didn't do it for me. And I don't know any Stephen King fans that liked it.
I'm a casual Stephen King fan, more so from the movie side of things, and I was also disappointed. So it's a very good pick. I think it's ripe for a remake.
Well, it took them so long to get it there, and now we're already saying remake it.
I think we're in the world where there's so many premium TV space that that could be an incredible miniseries or series on our primetime channels, but that would make it even more unlikely that I ever watch it. The only thing I watch are movies 10 years or older. So it was even rare that I even got a chance to watch this 2017 movie. But yeah, it was poor. But it didn't make me like the book series any less. It was just kind of rough.
Now this one is going to be probably the most polarizing one of the ones that we got here, but mine's going to be Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I had it built up. A lot of people loved it. Just talked about how great it was, and I think had those friends known me better, this is not my kind of movie. So it's lengthy and it's funny. I've fallen asleep at the beginning part multiple times. So when I finally did get all the way through it, I was like, yeah, I don't agree with everybody who loves this movie.
I just think you're right that people will overhype that movie, and if it didn't matter to you before and it ends up not mattering to you after, your friends are going to be like, "Oh, you just don't get it," or whatever. I think The Big Lebowski falls in that same category of like, "Oh, you got to see it," and then if you're not like a huge fan of it, like that's okay. Like there are certain movies that it's the cult hype that not everybody gets.
That's what exactly you've nailed it. Like this was pitched to me as like this is going to be on your top 100 greatest movies list, and I'm like, it is very not. It's on the top 100,000 movies list that I've seen. So.
Yeah.
All right. Today we are going to be doing what movie, Dustin?
1987's Fatal Attraction.
That's right. Fatal Attraction stars Michael Douglas, Glenn Close, and Ann Archer. And it has a budget of $14 million, and it grosses so much more than that. It's a very successful movie. It grosses $125.9 million domestically, placing it at number 2 on the box office, which, I feel like the 80s are a very interesting time. There's types of movies that you just don't see today that can top. Like, are you going to have a thriller topping the box office or, being number 2 on the year like that? It's just a really interesting note in like how the box office has shifted. The number 1 movie that year, perhaps even more amazingly, was 3 Men and a Baby. And it comes ahead of Beverly Hills Cop 2. So, I mean, very different kinds of movies.
Yeah. You're so right with comedies. Like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was like up there like 2 years later. Like it's nuts how these 80s comedies are like blasting the box office.
I love it. It makes me happy. And I hope comedy can work its way back in there again in the future. But IMDb gives Fatal Attraction a 6.9, and the critics of Rotten Tomatoes give it a 76%, and an audience score of 72%. That's surprisingly low because this gets 6 Academy Award nominations. It actually doesn't get any of them. They come away with empty-handed. They do get 4 Golden Globe nominations. They do win 1 BAFTA for Best Editing, nominated for 2 more there. It's a People's Choice Award winner. Perhaps most impressively, it's the AFI Top 100 Thrills list, number 28 movie. So it's pretty thrilling. Also AFI, perhaps even more impressive here, is they name Alex Forrest, the character in this movie, as the number 7 villain of all time, of all movies. So the critics and perhaps the audience score ratings don't justify that. Tyler, had you seen this one before? And
I had seen it in college, and it had taken me a while to see it because my mom remembered going on like a double date with another married couple. They didn't understand what the movie was, so they got to a certain point of this movie where they ended up walking out. Even though that event happens kind of quite late in this movie, I expected that when I saw it, I originally expected it to happen a lot earlier for them to walk out on. But yeah, for a while this movie's terrible. We walked out on it. This is not something that anybody should watch. And so I got to college and I kind of got a little I'm going to watch this movie that my parents told me I have no business watching.
You rebel.
And
I'll show you.
I know. It's college. What can I say? Changed me.
I know. I mean, some people really go off the deep end, and Tyler did. He watched an R-rated movie.
Let's go nuts and get Glenn Close on that screen.
That is the kind of rebellious personalities we bring on this show.
Yeah, it's Bad Boy Month.
I definitely have a college viewing of the movie and then rewatching it now. I think they made it in 1987 with a specific purpose, and I think that now that context has shifted and is a very different conversation than what they potentially had originally intended with the movie.
That's another reason it's interesting that it came out when it did. That's another good point. So is it holding up well over time for you?
It does, but for very different reasons.
Okay.
Very different reasons.
Yeah. Do you feel like the awards were nominated, like the nominations?
I'd forgotten that this had been nominated for so many things, like picture, director, especially in like a year for picture where you only get 5. Whereas now you can have, I think you have up to 10.
Best director, best actress, Glenn Close, best supporting actress, screenplay. I mean, these are the big ones.
Again, for the type of movie it was like, oh yeah, this movie, like, I think that we could have the most interesting conversation because I don't think you really kind of get nominations like this now.
Dustin, how about you? Had you seen Fatal Attraction before?
No, I am the one who has seen the fewest movies of all of our hosts, and I had never seen it, which is, once again, why I'm so grateful to have this position, to be able to see new stuff, and was very excited to be a blank slate going into it. Aside from who was in it, didn't really know what it was about.
How did it experience for you as a first-time viewer?
It was delightful. It was splendidly done, and while there are certain things about it, in general, maybe wouldn't be considered enjoyable, it is the sort of roller coaster thrill ride. You are made to feel certain ways, and sometimes that's through what they show you, and sometimes that's through how the actors act. I was mesmerized.
Yeah, I'm like you, Dustin. This is not one I'd seen before. It certainly, growing up, wouldn't have been allowed to watch this at the time. I did know what it was about. I think that takes a little bit away from it. I've always wondered, does knowing too much about a movie hurt it? But even knowing where this movie was going to take you, it was very intense. Because of the situations that they've built up, you do feel this uncomfortable quality. I got to credit them, particularly the director. They are going to spoil this movie and get into all the fun stuff about this. So this is a movie that might be more adversely affected if you haven't seen it. So we encourage you to watch it. We will be back after these messages where we will spoil this movie.
Welcome to the Flashback Flicks Retro Movie Podcast. I'm Ricky.
I'm Grayson.
And every week we review a movie from the past and reflect on things we missed, things we loved, and things we want to see again.
Yeah, because we believe any movie worth watching is worth watching again.
So if you like films, friendship, and a lot of callbacks,
I mean, just so many callbacks,
then subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever RSS feeds go for like-minded movie-loving individuals. Like you.
What happens when two modern film fans go back and rewatch all the old classic films from yesteryear to see if they hold up? You get the Classic Film Jerks podcast. Find the Classic Film Jerks podcast on all the major platforms.
Okay, we're back, and this is your final warning. We will be spoiling this movie. So, Dustin, for those who haven't seen Fatal Attraction since 1987, you want to give people a refresher?
Dan, Beth, and Ellen Gallagher are a happy family living in a tiny apartment in New York City with their dog Quince. Dan and Beth head to a work event at a busy bar to meet work friends where Dan has a brief encounter with Alex Forrest, who works for the publisher represented by Dan's law firm. The interaction is simple enough, and they remember each other at a meeting the next weekend. Circumstances lead to them sharing a drink at a restaurant, where a quick discussion about discretion, paired with the fact that wife Beth is out of town, leads to a sexual romp back at her place. He leaves, but gets coaxed back into spending the next day with her, heading to the park, having dinner, listening to music. Then, in his attempt to leave again, is confronted by a distraught Alex who has slit her wrists at the thought of him leaving. Dan stays another night, but then attempts to return back to his life of normalcy, involving buying his daughter a pet rabbit, buying a home in the suburbs, and potentially making partner at his firm. Alex does not play by the same rules, harassing him over the phone, introducing herself to his wife as a potential buyer for their apartment, following him to his new home, slaughtering and cooking the aforementioned pet rabbit, culminating in a final showdown between Alex and Beth with a kitchen knife in their new home. A brief struggle results in Dan drowning Alex before one last bolt of manipulative energy shocks Alex into one final surge to be met with a bullet in the chest from Beth. If I ever see you again, I'm going to kill you. We close on a Gallagher family picture in the foyer.
And there's a kidnapping in there, too.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
This is a successful psychological thriller, and it's really interesting. It's being made in the late 80s and the 90s. This is a typology movie that kind of goes on to be a thing, and a consistent presence throughout the box office. And this one is probably at the earlier part of the wave. There's some other movies like Razor's Edge and stuff that start to come up before this, and there are some people who would say that this is similar to the movie Play Misty for me. Having said that, it's clearly such a monumental impact on the box office that, like I said, you have this genre playing into the mid-90s. What is the worst thing that could happen in this situation? These very frightening moments of the worst thing that could happen for anybody who's got full of anxiety. Like, these are movies that are bad for people like that because it definitely goes to, this is literally the worst thing that can happen in this situation. But on the other hand, you shouldn't be in this situation, so maybe it's okay to put that out there. Tyler, what do you think about the story that we go on with the screenplay here?
I think it's very effective, but I think one of the most frustrating things for me about this movie is just how easily he slips into the affair.
Yes, it was one of my top points I wanted to bring up.
I do think that Alex is villainous in the movie, but I think the movie doesn't go into enough of, like, he's also very much to blame for this happening. And I don't know, how quickly he slips into it is such a big part of the movie for me. At least until, Alex starts boiling the rabbit or, doing some of this stuff. Like, I don't feel bad for him for what he kind of puts this woman through.
Yeah. You are sitting there going like, yeah, she's going to divorce you. You're going to lose your house in Connecticut, your apartment. You're going to live in a shoebox, and you're going to be stuck paying child support payments, and you're going to be, this isn't going to go well for you. This is what happens to people who do this. Like, I'm with you, Tyler, but I mean, I'll tell you where it starts to really be like when she takes his daughter out of school and starts messing with innocent people who didn't do anything. I think the movie kicks into a high gear when she pretends to be buying a house, and like it does feel like, oh, you're going to be stalking this guy out in the suburbs, and I can see where this is going.
The kidnapping scene happens 96 minutes in, if you can believe it.
Yeah.
It's so far into the movie when that happens. I am of the type of person who thinks infidelity is wrong. I don't think you should cheat on your partners.
I think that's going to go for most people.
That being said, I think there is a general understanding that adults that involve themselves in affairs is supposed to exist, and what we get, the result of their weekend together, turning into I think in description of this movie, this is like, it's sometimes she's referred to being as clingy. Like, we could find another adjective.
That is a gross understatement, but go on.
Gross understatement. But the idea is, like, you're supposed to be cool about this. Affairs happen all the time. He picked the wrong one of anyone he could have an affair with. And I think to add more context as to, like, the inciting incident here, like what Tyler brought up about, like, man, how easily he slips into it. We don't really... Tell me, do y'all think we really get an idea of his life being unhappy or like not unfulfilling?
Not at all.
Right. He's happy.
That's what's so frustrating. Like, Anne Archer seems to be the sweetest wife ever.
She's an angel.
Yeah, like I wanted Harrison Ford to come in from Patriot Games and rescue her here because it was that was the thing that was kind of hurting me throughout this. I'm just like, man, it's not like she's like a workaholic and doesn't care about him, or like she's like, right. or like it's not like she's an abusive mother, or like.
It's great, right?
This woman is great, and it makes you angry at Michael Douglas for that. Like, you're just like, like, yeah. There's no ability to sympathize with him, and I think that's right. What Tyler was talking about. Like, he falls into it. I don't know, like it's in what. 20 minutes into the movie, or 15 even. Like, it happens fast.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to overlook that. And the tension that comes thereafter is good. But, the whole, like, oh, no, I'm going to get caught. That can be a frustrating thing, and I'm glad the movie didn't just stay there. He actually tells his wife, and I got to credit the movie for going that direction. It does enter another level of real. Just, like, comes clean. She's reasonably affected by it, but then also grasp the gravitation of like they have a stalker chasing the family, and there's another level of danger that's associated with this now. And it shows him in the doghouse, beyond the doghouse, like at a hotel, like, you know, like realizing like I didn't want this to happen and I had no choice. And I mean, it's kind of nice to see him have to sit in it a little bit. Funny, people come up to Glenn Close all the time and like, you saved my marriage. I'm just like, well, think ahead. This doesn't lead you to anything good.
That's also, unfortunately, a very wrong takeaway from the movie as well. It's an unfortunate takeaway that those people that come up and thank her for saving their marriage.
Right.
It's like, if that's what you got from this movie, it's...
I think it was important to bring up that it does happen a little too easily. That them getting together for a weekend, like it just kind of happens too easily, and how it might be something that Russell, your words were like, you kind of just have to deal with it, like to get through the rest of the movie. There are other ways to like make that mitigating, perhaps. Like he wasn't in a situation where he was drinking too much or like didn't have his faculties. Like he was fine. It just, the opportunity was there and he took it. I'm not trying, that's the whole reason I said that I'm one of those guys that thinks infidelity is wrong. But the seemingly agreed upon, like, you got to be cool about this. There's a little bit of formality, like the unwritten rules that she follows just enough, but then introduces her manipulative ways to get the hooks in there.
I think Tyler had alluded to this earlier, but I think that there would be some very interesting mental health discussions that go to this today. I think she did think that she was getting in for something small, but then she fell for him bigger. And then with these attachment issues, there's probably some damage that this movie doesn't go into in the past. I don't need them to necessarily. It might be perhaps better and easier if they don't spoon feed us that. I think Tyler alluded to this. I think this movie goes down differently today. In the 80s, you could just say, that lady's crazy. Whereas now it's like, this is a person in need of help. And it's viewed more tragically. Not so much as a villain, per se, but as a tragic, maybe victim, debatably.
Which is where I was going, essentially, was pretty much, it reads as Russell said, oh, she's crazy in the 80s. And now it's like, we should probably get her some help. And I think that at the time, I don't know if this was a thing, but there actually is a diagnosis for people who have a unrealistic infatuation with people where, and it's I'm gonna butcher this name, it sounds French, but they're de Clerambault syndrome, or it's also called erotomania, but it's characterized by an individual's delusions of another person being infatuated with them.
That's probably the thing that's maybe shifted the most on this. And I also want to say, like, it's a little bit unfortunate that we don't have anybody from the female perspective watching this one. I think it's one of those things where I wonder how much they think, like, look guys, look how uncomfortable it is. Like, this guy cheated and he's in a really tight spot. And I'm glad the movie didn't stay at that, because I don't know how fulfilling that is. As we've all said, like, there's something hard to sympathize with this character. I mean, and honestly, it even does kind of like, you know, he goes in and like strangles her, basically beating a physically weaker woman on the floor. It's just kind of like, this is a little tough. This is a little tough right now. I'm like, and at the end of the day, I'm far more worried for his daughter and, again, his sweetheart of a wife than I am for him. I'm happy the ending's happy, but boy, that's a complicated situation to digest.
Do you think the uncomfortable scenes, the stuff that's meant to make you fidget in your seat a little bit, do you think that is what makes this movie good or better, or do you think it's the reason why our audience and critic score on Rotten Tomatoes dips below the 80%?
Brian Fry, co-host of us, he doesn't like to feel the cringe. I do. I like to be made to feel uncomfortable, and that's an emotional... People don't like to be afraid. They ride roller coasters so you can have that fear of falling without literally falling to your death and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's part of the magic of movies. They make you feel things in a quasi-safe environment. I liked that tension that came from it.
Yeah, same.
I liked the tension, but also there was some uncomfortable... and I had forgotten this because it had been so long since I had seen it. I thought the movie kind of... My recollection was that the movie did kind of let him off, but it does... Like, at times it doesn't. She very much is like, why did you do this then? If this meant nothing to you, like, she actually asks him that at one point. And I'd actually forgotten about the scene where he tells his wife. Like, my recollection again was he went behind her back and kept trying to manipulate things so that she never found out. So I am kind of glad that the movie did kind of push some of that uncomfortableness, but I think if it were made today, I think it might have actually been more.
Maybe. I think this has been redone in other formulas. I have to admit, this is not a type of movie that I pick up as frequently, but I feel like maybe I don't have the specific titles and lists in front of me. I feel like the formula had been done before and has been done many times since then.
For sure. Oh yeah, and this is something to kind of go into because there are some steamy scenes in this movie. You know, the kind of like erotic sex thriller has been done and was actually pretty popular in the 90s.
Yes, I think you're right about that. Do you think that's some of what's drawing people to the movie, just for its intense, sexy, like this is a lot for a movie, particularly in the 80s, I might add. Like by the 70s terms, this might not have been so, wow, that's a lot, but it is a lot. And it's a lot for 1987. We're in the Reagan years right now. You know, the world has tightened up a lot in movies, if that's a fair thing to say, Tyler.
I do think it's fair, and it's actually funny. I've forgotten that the director of this had also done 9.5 Weeks with Kim Basinger. So there was literally a scene where they're in the elevator, and the way the sunlight kind of hits everything in the shot, and it's kind of like almost kind of like softcore. Yeah. Where I was like, oh man, this movie's ripping off 9.5 Weeks, and I was like, oh wait, it's the same director. Afterwards, I was like, oh wait, it's the same director.
He's doing what he's doing. It's not a ripoff if it's yours. I just thought it was interesting how she wanted him, not just for him, but she wanted the family life. She wanted to have this child with him, and this is the part that I think would have made her more tragic. This movie doesn't try to make her that way, but again, upon the more you sit on and think about it, because it's a movie that makes you think about it afterwards, the more you do start to really commiserate with her. She doesn't seem like this evil force. She seems incredibly desperate, even right down to like how she makes him spaghetti and he leaves his wife's spaghetti in the refrigerator and feeds it to his dog. The fact that it's the same exact dish, I think, says a lot. Like, this is a woman who's accomplished, successful. She's, attractive, but I mean, he's leaving a wife who's very supportive and awesome and, attractive and all. It's just like, you're leaving your spaghetti to go get some spaghetti somewhere else, and you shouldn't go get spaghetti somewhere else. You should eat the spaghetti you have.
There is a lot I want to add into what you just mentioned. The idea that she is successful. She works for this publishing company. She runs a meeting with these 5 other lawyers. She has her own apartment in New York. Now, I get that prices were different 35 years ago, but also, like, she's 36. Like, she's quite successful. Successful enough that you might think she has it together. What we don't get is some type of history of her tangled web of people of men, we'll say, who have fallen into her trap.
We got a little taste of that.
What taste?
He goes and looks up the
thing about her dad.
Yeah, there's a hint that she murdered her dad. She actually makes it a point to be like, I don't sleep around. Like, I don't do this.
It's fuzzy. I'll be honest with you. This is where, like, I don't know if she's just abused as a child, maybe, but that's where I was getting from this.
I don't know. But, like, she lives in a place, like, her apartment is nice, but the building isn't. The building's like a magic trick to get in.
This is New York City before it has been gentrified in this neighborhood. This meatpacking district, I don't think is high real estate at this point in time. Now, today, I think it is.
But I think there is something interesting. For instance, like, there's the idea that, this duplex I live in now, in 5 years, if I were still living in this same duplex, it might be like, oh, wow, he's living below his means. And it seems like, is she living below, like, she's got this very successful job, but she's living in the meatpacking district. She has, like, high quality tastes. She's obviously desirable.
She dresses well.
Dresses very well. She likes the opera. Like there's stuff that, like, there's not much of like any given clues as to, I mean, we addressed it, of why she's like this or that she has a history of this. And it's just like, this ends up happening to Dan, and it didn't have me thinking of it during the movie, but it has me thinking of it now. Like, does she have a history of this? Would this have kept going? Or was this just the one guy? Was this the one?
I got the feeling that we were going to get that, but they didn't go that direction real hard.
And it's not. It's only a 2-hour movie, so there's not. I'm trying to think. Would it have further confounded things to try to add in an explanation, or is it sometimes just good enough for it to be happening, to be scary in the way that it is, and to not really have an explanation why?
Is it just an alternate universe where she just comes across Tom Hanks, who's like a widowed husband on the rebound, like Sleepless in Seattle style? I mean, he gets stalked too, by the way, in that movie. That's endearing, and they come together, and if he's available and there for her, and then they have a wonderful relationship. Do we even have a problem with this condition that she's got? Like, is it bad if you're ultra attached to somebody who's ultra attached to you back? Like, can this problem not be a problem? So I was sitting there going like, what if you didn't fall in love with the wrong person? Do you have a problem?
Did Dan make a mistake by going back and spending the day in the park with her and eating spaghetti? Which, by the way, at 36 years old, you're going to cook for a partner. You don't choose spaghetti. It's a peasant's meal. That could be a mistake. If I were, like, with the boys...
Well, yes, that's a date. That's a date.
Just it. Yeah, if I was out here with the boys... Now, like, you've got a girlfriend, Tyler, and you're married. If I'm sitting here with the other single boys, I would be saying to them, that's a mistake you made by going back over.
Vince Vaughn would have a rule in the Wedding Crashers book. I mean, he would definitely be calling it, we got a stage 5 clinger here.
Yeah, I think it would break his meter.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the book for that. There's no rule in the book for that.
Rule number 72, you don't let her cook for you.
There we go. Yeah, I think there was like, and he knew it. He was doing his best to be like, yeah, I'm really busy, I gotta work. And immediately she was very quick with well, do your work over here, or come over after. And that was another thing in, I guess, late 80s, 90s, where clingy girl as a trope existed. Maybe we were getting just like a little surface taste of that before realizing what we really were getting into with the crux of this movie. But I do think that the next night, obviously, is when we get that incident of he's gonna leave and she goes... The huge step, very early in the movie, this is maybe 40 minutes in, maybe.
Yeah.
Where she comes up to him with her hands behind her back. What are you guys thinking? I guess, Russell, this was your first time, right?
The movie just turned.
What are you thinking when her hands are behind her back? Because I definitely wasn't thinking, oh, she immediately went.
I was worried she was going to come at him because, again, I know the premise of what this movie's going to go. I mean, I had seen screenshots of her holding a knife. So I actually thought this was maybe the scene where the knife's coming out. And, like, I thought this was going to escalate into slasher mode faster. You know, I did not expect the whole, like, I'm going to hurt myself to get you to stay kind of thing. And I was just like, whoa, this movie turned. And that's when I started to get a little more into it because this woman's going to go do anything. She cut her own risks, I mean. And, you know, I mean, dropping battery acid and melting out the engine of your car. Dropping acid. Not dropping acid like drug acid, but like pouring acid on your car and melting it through down to the parking structure is literally not in the top 5 worst things that she's about to do. You know, Carrie Underwood's Maybe Before He Cheats has nothing on this lady. If she writes the song, you know, the chorus will include "I boiled his bunny."
That's a great music video. Needed more bunny boiling.
Which was the thing that my parents warned me about.
Oh, really? I thought it was the double date
that
where the friends. I thought they were too chummy on the double date. They weren't sitting on the same side of the table as each other, and they were hugging and getting cheek kisses by the other date. And I figured your parents were on the double date, going like, "No, we're not on that kind of double date. I'm out of here."
No way.
Oh, when I was originally told about this movie, I think that would have been a weird thing to tell someone under 10 years old of why they didn't watch a movie. No, yeah, it was the bunny. I thought that happened a lot earlier in the movie than it actually ultimately ends up happening. I will say those scenes, like with the wrist and some scenes toward the end of the movie, Glenn Close just rocks it in this movie.
Like, you don't see a lot of movies that, for women at this point, like, that are this strong of a role, and she got it.
And she was in her 40s when she got this too, which I mean, unfortunately don't get that kind of casting in movies like this anymore anyway.
It reminds me of the 30 Rock scene where, like, Liz Lemon's like, there are never any roles for women in their 40s in entertainment industry, and Alec Baldwin's good, and nor should there be. Like,
which unfortunately is a horrible truth about the industry, but
I'm not advocating that. Go on, though.
But she, like, ultimately tragic as the wrist scene is, I think it's one of the best scenes in the movie. it's one of like the scenes where I was just like, oh man, like you said, this movie switches into another gear. It's where everything about her kind of starts to unravel, and it's not played really for hysterics. Like I haven't felt horror like that in a long time, from the lines, "Why are you wet?"
Oh yeah, it's great.
I would like to leave now.
Well,
but it's
we
so
see that
effective.
it's successful. Yeah, it's effective.
It's effective because of how she plays it.
You're right. She does shine even in this, we'll say, villainous role, but she shines, and it's when you said effective, I thought what you meant was like effective to us in the audience, but it's effective. It works on Dan if you put yourself into the role, because this is a realistic role that you could, like, I mean, God forbid you would, but like the situation where someone is stage 5 clinger and then you go this far, what is your role? You make sure somebody doesn't bleed out, but it does enough, and it's a move that ramps up the intensity to 11, and then the next day how seamlessly she switches back to like the lovey-dovey style language, or it's like, hey, I understand, things are cool. You follow up a very intense scene like that with a very put together, mature, innocuous scene of meeting him at his office, and now he doesn't expect to see her. And that's, you don't want that, obviously, fellas. Like you don't want that girl showing up to your work. But then the things that she says, she invites him to go see Madame Butterfly. So like picking up on the thing that, like, oh, I know you like,
which that's foreshadowing,
because he had told her about like the thing that scared him. But then also like her trying to be mature, or her faking being mature, like, hey, that's all in the past, forget about it, is even scarier almost, is when this character is acting normal and you know that what's going on in the head is all manipulation and getting what she wants. It's psychologically thrilling, as the tagline would go.
I'm glad you brought up the Madame Butterfly. Like that is a fun piece of foreshadowing thing. In that play, you have the Japanese butterfly, if you will, is somebody who marries and bears a child, but he has no intention of loving her and staying here forever, and he just like leaves and goes for an American woman, and then driving her into despair, that woman commits suicide in the Madame Butterfly, which we'll put a pin in that. The ending of this might have actually gone that direction. I do want to stay on Glenn Close for just a little bit longer. I mean, she had a hard time getting this role. They initially said, like, don't even make her come in. Like, this isn't going to be hers. Like, it's a waste of her time. She had to fight to get it. She was persistent, and she rocked her screen test. It's 100% out of her being inspired and wanting this more than everybody else.
Again, you're never like I mean, you're on the edge of your seat this whole movie, but like even in like scenes where she tells him that she is pregnant, which, first off, the math on when the affair happens to when she says she's pregnant, that's not how that works.
I wasn't sure if she was bluffing at that point or not, but clearly she wasn't later.
But it at that point, it doesn't matter, because it's to mess with him. Because she tells him, like, I'm going to raise it. I don't care if you're part of it. Like, whatever. I just want you to know that it's out there. And that continues to drive him in his kind of, like, what am I going to do frantic state. And it's all to mess with him, whether it's true or not.
But, I mean, I think when they wanted to get somebody in there, they were expecting, like, let's get Kim Basinger, let's get Sharon Stone, let's get somebody who's just going to come in and just, like, be a total knockout. I'm not saying Glenn Close is not attractive, but that's what she had to overcome. They were kind of in that vein, like, oh, this woman has to be a total seductress.
It's kind of better that she wasn't.
I was going to say what she brought to the table was the other 3/4 of the movie. And maybe if she had been that way, maybe you might have had some quasi reason why this could have happened. Like, we were all struggling with why did this happen, but I don't think, I mean, what Glenn Close delivers by being so awesome at the whole other 95% of the character is why she's ranked at number 7 on the AFI Greatest Villains character, and why this movie's ranked at number 28 for that matter on the AFI Thrillers list. Like, it's her, that she's what does this.
You're right. It is her performance, and I think just a little kudos to the director for framing it in the way, like, she has every opportunity to show off this character. It wasn't until you just said it, Russell, that like number 7 on villains, that's really high. I didn't realize it when you said it. I'm like, wow, because she is both scary and capable, but also little things about her performance. I take away like out of her performance, sitting in the dark while opera music plays, while you're in silhouette. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about sort of maybe it's like a combination of like her maybe dark eyeshadow with like sunken eyes in a way. Combined, everything about what Glenn does as Alex is frightening still, and that's without the slasher aspect at the very end.
She's in a class with Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life, Nurse Ratched, Wicked Witch of the West, Darth Vader, Norman Bates from Psycho, and Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs. Like, that's elite class that you're in right there.
I think it's scary because you do realize how susceptible anyone can be to manipulation, or the movie that coined the phrase gaslighting, or just things about how real it is. Certain things become more real as you get older, like the fear of losing your mind as opposed to the fear of death. The idea that they're like the worst possible thing that could happen. In the end, hey, our family survives it all, aside from Whitey, the bunny. It's almost as if they included the bunny just so that we didn't have to see the dog die. Somebody had to die. It was Whitey. But this movie, aside from the actual affair / stalking / aftermath, there's a lot about this movie that seems very real, including like that little double date, like hanging out together when the friend Jimmy is toasting to his potential new partnership. Like, that all seemed very real. All these friends seem real, and the realer this movie seemed, the more invasive the fear of like this terrible things. People sitting in the seats in 1987 uncomfortable with the idea of, I'm sitting next to my partner right now. This is possible for any of us. That's not scary like Alien is scary.
Yeah, it's not like scary like Jason, like she's not like on a killing spree. You're right. I think that is scarier than Jason personally.
This is around every corner in the world. A very, very cool and uncomfortable, but just cool approach to fear.
It's kind of funny coming back to it. I mean, Tyler, you got to it sooner than us, but I mean, you still would have Glenn Close had already been like, I mean, to me, like, I first took her in as Cruella de Vil. She was a pretty wild character in that as well. Kids movie, but she did a good job in that. I'd seen her do other things where she's tough, like in Air Force One and stuff like that. So to me, I knew that she could have had this in her. I think she's a good actress, but at this point in time, at this point in her career, where she is, she's kind of the nice lady. And this is a left turn from her. She wanted to do a character that would demand more of her. She wanted to play a character that was complicated and twisted like this, and a character who was supposed to be sexy. She knew she could do it, even though nobody else really thought of her. So she broke a typecast that she had for herself in doing this. So if there's ever an inspiration for somebody who's entered the midpoint of their career, if you feel like you're established and you want to break that, Glenn Close works pretty well. Like, I mean, like, she gets work pretty well. And through the era that Tyler was alluding to, she may not be always getting the first build person on there, but she goes through the awkward phase for females at least a little better than the industry tends to treat people. And perhaps maybe this movie was the right movie at the right time to make all that happen for her.
For sure, and I'm trying to find it right now while you were talking about that. There was one actress that was up for it, but because of how much it would have like changed how her fans viewed her and things like that, they didn't take the role. And I think there were a lot of people around that time that were afraid to jump into that, which I think is how Glenn ended up getting it.
The whole movie actually had a hard time getting greenlit. They had a hard time finding a leading man for this role, too. The writer was expected to, James Dearden, was expected to both write and direct this movie. So this movie changes director's hands, it changes lead man's hands. So Douglas' experience with a less experienced director led him to want another director. They took Dearden off, They actually kept him on the production. They got Brian De Palma in there to direct. That didn't pan out, and he didn't like Michael Douglas. And so the producers, Lansing and Jaffe, just wanted to stick with Douglas because like he was more constant at this point. So De Palma is then released, and they go through multiple attempts at directors. I mean, John Carpenter's one that strikes me as I like him. I wonder what he would have done with this movie. But I gotta say, Adrian Lyne did do a really good job here.
And I will say, I'm a big fan of De Palma, even though I know some of the things that he directs are sometimes questionable. He's very voyeuristic, and sometimes, again, that also makes people uncomfortable. I will say, even as a fan of his, if he had directed this, I don't think that it would hold up the way that it does now.
It's interesting. Adrian Lyne doesn't have like a huge catalog necessarily. I mean, it's Flashdance, 9.5 Weeks, Fatal Attraction, Jacob's Ladder, Indecent Proposal, Lolita, Unfaithful, and Deep Water. Like, not a long directorial list here. And so
it was Sally Field for Alex, and she turned it down because she's like, my fans won't like this.
How did this guy not get more work is what I'm wondering.
It does seem odd, right? Like this is his fourth major movie, like, and to shoot the moon as he did.
He gets nominated for Best Director, and in the next 6 years he makes 2 movies. That's kind of weird.
I wish that I actually had an explanation for that or some kind of insight, but other than sometimes that happens. That's happened to a couple of directors. Like I remember, I think it's at least been 10 years since like Beasts of the Southern Wild came out, and everyone was excited for that director's next movie, and it didn't come out till like 2 years ago. So there was just like a lot of time where he couldn't get projects off the ground despite having a Best Director nomination for his first movie.
Or maybe he's doing the move where it's like, all right, I'm not taking any jobs unless the first choice and the second choice are ousted. So I'm like, that's how I temper my expectations, is like, I'm only going to be like the guy who comes in and saves the production.
Well, this time, I think he was literally they said over 20 directors. So
right, that's what I meant to say.
He was so, I was going to say, he's so the opposite of like the first choice.
Yeah.
He's like the last man standing, like, you know, like, I'll make your movie. Really? Yeah. Like, you'll do it? Like,
yeah.
Where everyone,
I mean, we'll pay you. We'll pay you. Just like, no, I assumed that. Like, I'll do it. Like, are you kidding with us? Great, we got him. We got one.
And then they forget that they needed to put the phone on mute, so they're like, "Oh shoot! They should hear how excited we are about this."
Yeah, sounds good.
I think this movie, over time, lives off of its psychological thrills. I think the sex scenes and stuff like that actually helped sell tickets at the time. I really do think that that's part of what led it to be what it is. I mean, I think being a steamy movie is what led it there. And it's kind of funny. Parts of it do strike me as odd and offbeat and funny. And I thought, was this on purpose? And I saw an interview where Adrian Lyne was saying, like, you know, I didn't want the love scene to take place in bed because it's just so dreary. I thought it was that would stink. And I remembered I had sex with a girl in a counter sink, and you know, the plates were crashing around, and you just have to laugh. He said, you need to make people laugh in a sex scene on screen. I was kind of sitting there going, like, do you in a movie like this? Like, I mean, he like literally picks her up with her butt facing the camera. Like, I mean, it's kind of awkward. Like, he's like walking around with no pants and a shirt on, you know, carrying her back to the room.
He can't like, get one foot out of the leg of his pants.
Yeah, I mean, that I was like, is that right for this movie? That was my number one. I'm questioning you, Adrian Lyne. Like, do you want to make people laugh there?
Yeah, I don't know if I would sum up the sex scenes in this movie as being comedic. Nor did I feel like that was the direction. There was a little bit that was funny. Like that's kind of a little funny, but it's not really about like, hey, I thought this needed a good laugh.
No, yeah, I just thought that was a strange comment from the director. I felt it. Michael Douglas did say, like, you know, doing sex scenes in movies is actually really hard. I mean, you don't want to come off as being cheap like softcore porn. And you don't want to lose the movie at that point. You don't want to lose the momentum. I mean, it's a difficult thing for a director to approach. And that was an interesting thing I had not thought of before. So often they stick that in movies in order to sell tickets to we're doing this to entice people to get there. But the notion that is actually, I think of it as a cheap trick to some degree.
I think of it as a huge risk. This either improves or it swings the pendulum really far. This either improves the overall experience of this movie, the decision to call it a thriller compared to an erotic thriller, like a whole genre of erotic movies. The idea that I think it is either made better or made worse, and it's sort of like zero sum. I think that there's times where it's like, this is awkward. This is taking away from my enjoyment. And I'm happy to say that, like, with this movie, I was like, this fits. It makes it feel more real. I dug what his decisions were.
Not saying my preference that it went into it, but, like, it also could have pushed those more to the forefront than they did, too. I feel like there was just enough of that, like you said, to get that audience there, to get that extra little bit before the thriller aspects kind of jump in. I for the most part, I think it worked. I think I awkwardly chuckled when he couldn't get his pants off at that point, but I'm glad you brought up that quote, because I was going to bring it up if you didn't, about how he did it that way because that's how he also had sex with a girl. I was like, what a weird confession in an interview.
Maybe he was a total nerd and didn't at all, and that was his way of so the guy's backer, like his I don't know, like his like high school friends are just like, yeah, I don't know, I think that's a lie.
No,
he was in the single friend circle where they were all comparing stuff, and he's
I did it on the sink with 12 girls. Maybe 13. Yeah, it was 13. Definitely 13.
Well, may have been a 14th, I don't know. What makes me sound better?
I think it might add to the idea that, like, why does a guy that is seemingly not unhappy, things are seemingly going well, why does a guy decide to make this decision? And I think the banter in the I don't think anything at that very busy bar, like, party, that restaurant bar party, I don't think there was anything really in terms of a spark there. But I think that the dialogue in the restaurant when it's raining and they're just like, let's grab a drink while we get a cab, like, and then leading that into the first sex scene. I think there's the goal. You need to add a little bit. That's like, this has got to be hot. Like, if I'm at the pitch meeting, like, we need something hot here. I mean, we need to make it seem like this is the part of the reason why this is happening is because this is too good of an opportunity with too hot of a partner. And so we need to get that feeling through the scene. But that, I think, is it. I still am a little baffled by the idea of, like, it's got to be funny, y'all. We're going for yucks. No.
Yeah. Now, we got to talk about this. This movie had an alternate ending. Originally, Alex Forrest was scripted as slashing her throat, and the film's end with a knife to make sure that Dan had the fingerprints on the knife. He was being taken away by the police, and it had a cassette tape that Alex had given to Dan that she was threatening to kill herself. And upon realizing that, Beth takes the tape to the police and acquits Dan for the murder, and they do have a happy ending. And it's a flashback of Alex taking her own life by slashing her own throat at that point, while listening to Madame Butterfly, which is foreshadowing, as I mentioned earlier, of that play. Now, Siskel and Ebert hated the ending of this movie, and it felt like Friday the 13th. The villain even comes back to life.
Yeah,
that's a little bit cheesy to like, he drowns her and then she like reanimates. Like, I'm okay with Beth coming in and shooting her. I think that would have just been fine. The whole choking her under the bathtub, I don't know that I wanted that myself. But Tyler, what do you think about these two very, very different endings?
I am in the camp. I actually think I would have liked the original ending. And the thing that I read of why it was changed is because it tested poorly and they felt that Alex essentially got away with it, and they didn't see her physically punished on screen for everything that she put him through. Which again is why I feel like this was very different interpretations in the 80s than would have been today.
Yeah.
I think I'm with you. I've been mulling it over because I watched this movie weeks ago. Actually, when you picked it right away, I was pretty excited to get to it, and I've rewatched it since then. And I first thought, no, I don't want that. That's this movie's long enough already, and I don't need all that. But the more I started thinking about it, the more I'm like, no, that's consistent with Alex's character. She would want to punish him, like it would be a last great stand. Like, if I can't have you, like, you're gonna, like, that seems like, I mean, she cut her own wrist. Like, that was step one. Like, that makes total sense that, like, slashing her throat would be, that's cranking the amps up to 11, you know?
And I do think they kind of get to a little bit of it in that ending scene where she's talking to Beth and kind of like digging into her leg with the knife and all of that, which I do agree the ending is kind of a little slashery, but like when that starts I think I was very I hate to use this word. I think I enjoyed that aspect of the ending. I hesitate to use the word. I think it was the most effective part of that ending. There we go. I'll go with another E word, effective. I think that was effective with her digging in, and like I think that actually helped ratchet up the tension and make it less horror movie but more like psychological.
It's funny, you see promotional like interviews where they're like no, this was the right thing to do. And then later other interviews come out and like Glenn Close was actually really staunchly opposed to the idea of doing this. After the poor audience test reaction, like they were pressured to change this. He didn't like the idea. They paid Jeff Lynne, wrong. Not the lead singer of ELO. They paid Adrian Lynne another $1.5 million to change it, which that is a good way to get somebody to change their mind on something. It's just like,
because
nope.
He didn't want to do it either.
Yeah, I was gonna say
he and Glenn Close didn't want to do it.
It's like, nope, I stand by what I do, and this is what it needs to be, and I don't care what the test I say. This is what it has to be. We'll give you 1.5 million. We're changing the movie.
Listen, this is my 5th movie. I think I know what I'm doing. Ooh, cha-ching.
What you just described, Russell, I feel like is like the Tropic Thunder version of what would have happened.
So, Ann Archer leaned into that too. Like there was an interview with her. I was like, I think they made the right choice, but like you kind of didn't see in her like the person's just like, well, you wouldn't have been as involved with that, like implying like you're the one who shoots her and shuts this movie down. She's like, no, I had a lot more acting in the other one, but I can't talk too much about it. And it's just like you could kind of see her being like, I had more to offer, and they took it away from me.
I would have actually won Best Actress or Best Supporting Actress.
Yeah,
had we kept the original.
Glenn Close said the best original ending, or was the original ending, and that it was a gorgeous piece of film noir. And she killed herself to make sure that the prints were all over the knife, and she gets arrested, and she knows that she didn't do it, but she's going to jail anyway. Audiences wanted some kind of cathartic ending, and it frustrates her. So
3 for 3, I agree with y'all. I think I like the idea of this ending, that like this other ending.
Had I been in the test audience, my first take was, oh, I don't want that. That's a little bit too dark. And then I'm thinking about, well, this whole movie's been too dark. So, I mean...
I'm not going to lie. If, not that she's already not high on the villains list, but if that original ending had happened, she'd be a couple...
She's jumping Mr. Potter in Pottersville?
Higher up. Yeah. I think that cements her as one of the all-time great movie villains.
Yeah, if the villain can like somehow get away with it, I think the first thing that came to my head was Watchmen from the graphic novel and the movie. It's like, it happened for 37 minutes ago. Like it's what we're dealing with is, I'm telling you, but it already happened. Getting away with it, yeah. I would be left with Russell. You mentioned the word like cringe. I'd be left with that feeling. And while that feeling itself isn't comfortable, it does like add to what I think, hard to say the value, but it adds to how much this movie kind of impacts you in watching it. Yeah, I think that original ending is what I would have preferred too.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about the atmosphere? We did talk a little bit about like the meatpacking district and like how it's kind of like that's a different meatpacking district than that we now know today. This is a kind of a dark, dismal, dreary depiction of New York. Like there's not a lot of warmth. His apartment's very white, very sterile. Her apartment's very white, very sterile. I mean, the law firm feels stuffy. Now, and granted, 80s corporate world is super stuffy. Even an Elder Parker walking around with a cigar filled with books all over the place and like cherry wood and stuff like that. And there's just something very stiff and rigid about this. The environments don't seem comfortable. I mean, and maybe the party at the beginning did, but nothing else after that's comfortable. And I think that's maybe that's intentional. I shouldn't say nothing else. The suburban, idealistic Connecticut thing is made to feel comfortable, but New York, which is where we are for a vast majority of this movie, not made to feel comfortable.
It's dark and rainy. it kind of adds to the. I mean, they have the rain is what takes them to the restaurant that led to their affair in the first place. Was he couldn't get his umbrella open, which was another weird comic thing that kind of felt out of place. Everything's just kind of dark, and if I remember this correctly, I think the only real light that happens is actually at the beginning of the movie. I think there's like the sunrise on everything, and then kind of everything just really gets kind of set in motion of this cold, sterile,
a lot of artificial light.
I don't know, maybe that atmosphere was meant to be like why he went for it, is he felt cold and detached. And
it's not the only time, actually, the date that we all talked about, like, you know, like that was an ill-advised day out at the park with the dog and stuff like that. They made that look nice and appealing.
There's a lot of interesting stylistic choices, not just the attempts at humor, but some of the lighting, the way that they shoot things. Like, she's basically giggling and they like roll around in the ground like a meat cute and stuff like that. Like, there's just, that was the one thing that I was sitting here thinking about, because he was nominated for Best Director. And I was kind of thinking, like, the aesthetic, I was like, was there really anything other than, like, the sex scenes or anything that, like, aesthetic-wise, like, gave the movie, like, a personality or anything? And I couldn't think of anything, but now that you were mentioning, like, how kind of cold it is and how kind of sterile it is, and I was like, maybe that's where a lot of it kind of stepped in, you know, director-wise and production-wise, to kind of give it a little more personality outside of like the thriller and the kind of you know, stalkery aspect of it.
I'd like to say in terms of what Lyne does to the feel of this movie, aside from when Beth and Ellen are with the family, you know, out in the burbs and the park, once we get to a certain like time in this movie and we are really introduced to the true Alex, that's when I think what Lyne does is he makes you feel like nowhere is safe. That is pervasive.
He painted a really nice picture of this Connecticut home, and then he took it away. Like, you're not safe in the suburbs kind of notion. Like, in the 80s, you definitely are still into that white flight from the city. The city's not safe. It's not desirable. Still an attitude. And he's gone out to here, and she's followed him. And even how they shoot the amusement park, which is probably a really nice amusement park. But which, by the way, that's called Playland Park. They actually use that same park in Woody Allen's film Sweet and Low Down. Yeah, you're right, Dustin. Like, they take that safety away from you. Yeah,
most unsettling amusement park scene I think perhaps I've ever seen. That is a candidate for the best scene of the movie. Is that coupled with juxtaposed with the understanding, like when Beth shows up and says, "I'm here to pick up Ellen." No, you already did. Wait, what? That combo, it really ramps up. This is when the tension is getting highest. Man, just thinking about this movie, like, puts you back in that, like, this, for me, I would say, like, that feeling is enjoyable.
I liked her apartment better than I liked his. Obviously, her district of where she lives is not as desirable, but hers, it seems more spacious, more open. His seems very tight. Not necessarily, which obviously is why it's motivating him to go out to Connecticut. But I mean, I throughout this movie, I kept thinking, like, shouldn't he be dressed a little bit nicer? Shouldn't he, like, he drives an 81 Volvo. Like, I mean, he's had a pretty successful law firm handling some pretty important cases. I was a little surprised by, they didn't make any mentioning, like, this is a breakthrough that you've never been on before, and now you're on the big ticket. Like, I felt like he wasn't as glamorous as she was. Like, why are you so stuck on this guy? Like, you know, she's a better dresser than he is, you know? I mean, not like she's driving an amazing sports car and stuff like that, but I mean, actually her car kind of sucks, but I mean, his car's not amazing.
Well, I think that's it. I think Russell, that's it. It's not what makes this guy special. It's that he kind of is any guy.
Is he really that out of her league if he just wasn't married, is my point.
I think that's what makes it scary to the audience, is that you don't have to be pulling in six figures to be the object of this attraction, of this fatal attraction.
You think it's better if he's the Tom Hanks as the any guy kind of guy?
We don't even have to use another celebrity here. This could be anyone. That's why it's scary.
You're right. Tom Hanks is too nice. If this Tom Hanks is in this movie, she goes, "Are you discreet?" And he goes, "I'm leaving, and I'm going to go to Connecticut now." And it's a very short movie.
Buzz, look an alien.
By the way, another thing Lynn does is he zooms in on Glenn Close when it's time to get crazy, and that hair that she chose, and she helped choose this. She deliberated with what to do with it. She just let it go crazy. That was a great thing to do. Nothing personified what was going on internally. Externally, she's disheveled at one point. She has like a baggy like white shirt on at some point, but which seems kind of like, did you escape from an asylum kind of thing, and illusions of that kind of coming through, but nothing gets unhinged in her, even if she's flicking a knife on her leg. I mean, it's the hair. The hair just, Google her. It's just going to come up. There's 20 pictures of it. Just like, you really should have taken the Tom Hanks approach and just said, "I'm leaving."
I have a loving family and I'm leaving.
I think you mentioned the zoom in on Glenn Close. I really liked the zoom in. Essentially, this is like in a way from Dan's perspective, but it's after the affair happened, and I believe they are either back at the apartment or at the new home. But you're zooming in on Ann Archer's Beth at night skincare routine, and you do get a little bit of like, all right, here's cleavage in the mirror. But essentially, what you're getting is like the husband's admiration for the ongoing beauty of his wife, of who he loves, and he's got a new. I would say that Dan acts that Michael Douglas like acts and shows that he is realizing, like, why did I do this? I didn't have anything going wrong.
I did like that.
And so what you're seeing is like the director shows you all of the good that Michael Douglas is able to portray as like, man, he took it for granted and he made a stupid mistake. You see it with that zoom in to Ann Archer's like skin routine. You see that in like the relationship with the parents when. What is she doing? What is Ellen, the daughter, doing? Like, she's practicing like a line with a top hat. Is she like in a school play or something? I don't know what it is, but he's just like, you can tell he's acting so grateful for these gifts of a loving family. And this coupled with the scenes when he's looking at when he's hearing the ringing phone. Do you guys realize like the ringing phone becomes like a trigger for fear?
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
That, like
I've never been afraid of a phone call like that. Like
seriously, during a quick break we had earlier, Tyler and I were talking about Scream. That phone call, like that, like ringing phone. The ringing phone in this movie is at least on par with, because it's dealing with the psychological fear of everything coming down. This incredible relationship and family that I have is at risk because of some stupid mistake that, if it really meant nothing and it didn't result in a stalker, would still be awful. But it actually is the worst, is that she won't leave you alone and is now threatening your family. I'm giving credit to the director here for this. I think it's really, when the opportunities are given to the actors to show it and the actors follow through and execute with showing it, it was. I'm gushing too much for not being close to our rating section.
We're getting there. Yeah. I think it's interesting that Glenn Close's character, she wears black when we first meet her at the party. And then after that, she wears largely white throughout. And sometimes it's a loss of innocence. And you wear white, and then you do a bad thing, and then you wear black. Kind of the reverse of that. There's something very deliberate in choosing that. And I didn't read an explanation. Obviously, wardrobe isn't always held up as, but there's a distinct move there that I'm curious about. Write to me if you do you either guys, do you pick up on that? Like, I was sitting there going like, why'd they do that?
I think the only other time that she doesn't wear white is when she's coming after this attempted suicide. I think when she visits him in the office, she's not wearing white. But I think you're right. Every other time after that, she is in white.
It's not like the devil. I'm tempting you with red. I don't get it. Like it's a very distinct decision. I'm just curious about that. White normally makes you feel vulnerable. She's anything but that.
I'm wondering if it's just this movie's interpretation of the common noir trope of the femme fatale. I don't know.
Now, Adrian Lyne did regret Glenn Close submerged in the bathtub, being strangled down, and he put like white contacts in her lenses, which makes her look ghastly and supernatural. Again, this movie turns a little bit, I won't call it hokey, but it does leave its genre at the end with her reanimating out of the bathtub, and he does see that and regrets that wardrobe or makeup decision there. So, by the way, Glenn Close found out shortly thereafter she was pregnant. She was really getting roughed up in these scenes. She was worried that she was like, being submerged, and like these are things that you should be doing when you're pregnant.
Despite everything that's happening in this movie, I think you touched on this earlier. There are some moments of disconcerting violence towards women in this movie.
Yeah,
he doesn't do anything to Ann Archer, but his there are some moments where
right. I see what you're saying.
So Glenn Close has the knife that she used in the movie hanging in her kitchen to this day. Fun little prop that she keeps. And it's made out of wood and paper. It's not a real knife. That's an interesting thing to have your guests come in and see.
I'd take so many pictures with it.
I love the idea of taking something from like set.
And Glenn Close was also allergic to tobacco, so for a few scenes when Alex is smoking the film, she's not actually smoking cigarettes, so her unborn child is at least okay from the smoking thing. So if your head's going to that, don't panic too much on that one. So what a cool thing to be allergic to.
The movie cigarettes not being tobacco like for the longest time, right?
And this is a good question. I don't know how movie cigarettes are done. I know how movie glass is done. Like everybody breaks bottles and throws people through glass and stuff like that, but I don't know how cigarettes are done. Like I've thought about that. Like I figured they were just handing you a cigarette and saying like, I don't want to. It's just like, I got $1.5 million. It's like, I will be smoking a cigarette in this scene.
I will give myself lung cancer. Just kidding. No, I used to know, and I don't remember off.
I'm morally flexible. All the listeners haven't. It's like, if you pay Retro Movie Roundtable $1.5 million, will you have whatever you want in the show?
We know their price now.
Our standards will go out the window. They are your standards.
We also know that when anybody is eating, like that you normally have to, like, you chew and you spit out. There's no way you could go through eating 12 cheeseburgers in a scene, right? So, like these cigarettes, like it's just an herb that does nothing for you. It's just for, it's like using milk instead of water in the, like it's just a movie trick. Like I'm sure nobody thought like, oh, they're having pregnant Glenn Close smoke. No, she's fine.
Yeah, and again, nobody knew she was pregnant. She didn't know she was pregnant. So,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
it's time to go into our favorite part of the show, the superlatives. Are you ready to hand some awards?
Oh yeah,
I am.
Tyler, you're a guest. Do us the honor. MVP.
We've touched on it. I don't need to go into any more details. It's Glenn Close.
I saw that coming. Dustin, is this a sweep? Because that's what I'm doing too.
Actually, I probably tipped my hand in the last 30 minutes. For me, it's Adrian Lyne. Thought the setting up the opportunities for the actors to succeed, the opportunities for the actors to succeed was well done, and I really, really liked it.
That's a great choice. If there was ever a consideration for running up, that was it for me. But I'm with Tyler and Glenn Close on this one. Best supporting actor. Are you going with the Oscar choice on this one, or the Oscar nominee on this one, Tyler?
I am, and we didn't really talk about her, at least big scene in my eyes, which was where she's been told about the affair.
She's good at that.
There's a whole scene where Glenn Close is like, okay, let me talk to her. That scene, again, depending on director, how they chose to film it, different actress in the role, this could have been like a whole hysterical thing. This could have been like a huge thing. But her thing is, don't call here again. And then she hangs up the phone. And it works on so many levels. The disgust at Glenn Close, the disgust at Michael Douglas, the disgust at the situation that she's in. Just don't call here again. So good.
I like how it was portrayed that she was not fast to forgive. Ultimately, she chose to stay with him, which is a valid thing for some people. I'm not going to judge people early in the show. I wasn't saying like this is always what happens. I mean, she chose to stay with him, but there was hurt, and it showed, and he would have to live with that forever, and I think that was evident as well. So, like I said, Dustin mentioned this already, this movie feels real. I think a big part of that is Ann Archer. Good choice. Dustin.
Yeah, Ann Archer.
Ann Archer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's because I think she handles the, I'm actually gonna swing the other way. It's she handles the subtle things, like the excitement that Dan says he'll go and see the house tomorrow morning. that actual like surprise in how that line is delivered. Really? You sure? Like that type of genuine quality seems harder to deliver than screaming, crying, shock, extreme emotions. Little subtle things like a graciousness or the type of things that, like, Russell, you come home, you surprise Mary with bouquet, something like that. Like there's
That's
that
on the air. I need to do that now. Thanks.
that particular, let's just say there's a way that she reacts, unless like you have to have experience with it in a way. I think I would guess that she got a lot of connection from audience members. Like, wow, she seems real, seems genuine.
Yeah, she seems awesome at the party, even as they're getting ready. Like, first part of this movie, like I know the premise of what's coming, for better or for worse. I'm sitting there going like, oh no, this isn't setting up the way I thought it would.
There's a lot of partners in movies like this that would be visibly, they would like, I hate those parties. I don't like having fun like this.
It makes you really have a hard time sympathizing all the way with the main character of Dan, but I think that's another one of those things that's real. It's a more realistic approach to the movie. They're not asking whether the audience is comfortable with it or not until the end, in which case they took painstaking money, like they changed the ending. Hidden gem, Tyler.
I think it's the conversation that this inspires. Because I think when it originally came out, like I said, it was meant to be one thing, and now you can look at it from a wide variety of angles, and there's a lot of it to interpret. There's a lot of it that changes viewing it now than back in the 80s, and I think that rewatchability, that conversation that the movie is able to have is a hidden gem in itself, because that is a hard thing for a movie to do outside of like watching a blockbuster and like, oh, the big action moment or whatever. But this whole movie you can talk about and interpret, and I think that is a hard thing to do.
Tyler broke the box. We at Retro Movie Roundtable find a way to talk for 90 minutes about any movie, including Leprechaun last week. So
that's a really cool answer, Tyler. I like that because it's a complicated issue and one that could be very close and very detrimental to every family in the country, nay, the world. So that's a good answer.
Yes. And Dustin, hidden gem.
When Alex asks for the unlisted number and the operator says no, she screams, F you! And the guy says, my plays are yours.
You almost delivered that with a Quagmire-esque, oh yeah.
Don't you compare me to him.
That was another one of those interesting moments of humor thrown in, where I was like, oh, would someone say that?
This guy was so quick with that result. Maybe operators at the time were used to that, so they all had a little witty comeback.
That's true. Hidden gem. My hidden gem is going to be Jane Krakowski. It's the babysitter.
That's the babysitter.
Yeah, so I mentioned 30 Rock earlier in the show. I love 30 Rock, and this is a fun, unexpected place where it's just like, is that? And then I looked it up, and it was Jane Krakowski.
I didn't notice it was her, but just yesterday, on a different Skype call, I mentioned that 30 Rock is my favorite sitcom of all time. Yeah, but I couldn't tell that was Jane Krakowski.
Yeah, recast. If you had to recast somebody, put somebody else in their place, because we have really buttered up the actors in this one. This is going to be tough. Tyler, who are you recasting and who are you putting in their spot?
I would recast Michael Douglas.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's a strong cast. I mean, I think he's good, but you're right. I mean, you're not going to recast Glenn Close and Ann Archer, so I mean, yeah.
And if we're going with 80s, it's either Richard Gere or Mickey Rourke.
Huh.
Back when Mickey Rourke was a thing. If we're updating a little bit, I've got 3 here. We got Clooney, we got Downey Jr., or we have Hugh Jackman.
I feel like Clooney would just be too smooth for the whole situation. He'd just get out of it.
That's fair. I didn't think about it that way. I was thinking more about image.
Yeah, those are good, interesting picks. Dustin, recast.
I have 2 here, but there's minor roles. The small town sheriff that we didn't mention these scenes at all, but Dan goes and talks to like the chief of the small town, or
he offers realistic but incredibly apathetic information.
Yeah, I think his name might be Vaselli, but I thought instead of the guy who's in the movie, instead of Sam Coppola, that we could have Arlie Ermy there.
I considered this guy. I'm happy you came after him. I don't know Arlie Ernie as well. So
Arlie Ermey is the drill sergeant from Full Metal Jacket.
Wow, you're doing something intense with that role. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you came after this guy.
I just feel well, but then if you look into this guy, this Coppola guy, you realize one, he's not related to Francis Ford Coppola, and two,
he's not.
No, he's not, and two, he's in like a ton of movies in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So it's kind of like he was someone that in the 80s you would have known that guy. So it almost made me feel bad for coming after him. So instead, I also
he
offered
didn't do a good job
as an alternate Wayne Knight as Jimmy.
I like that. I actually thought I was like, this guy reminds me of Wayne Knight.
He
But
does, yeah.
I don't do this often, so Chad's gonna be smiling somewhere. But I'm gonna recast Ellen Latzen, who's she's a child actor. It's true. I normally stand up for the child actors in this one, and furthermore, this is not her finest work. She is also in Vacation. Christmas Vacation. She's one of the kids of Cousin Eddie. This movie, I'm going to go with Danielle Harris. She might be a tad older, but I think she can still do the part just fine and still be... This is not a great movie, Halloween 4, but I do think she is good. Also, she's in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
Unfamiliar.
Best shot, Tyler.
I originally had on here the elevator love scene, which is also... now that I think about it, also has a weird, somewhat comedic shot where the elevator stops and they just kind of stop and somebody walks by.
Right.
I've already talked about the lighting in that scene, but I'm actually going to talk about the shot of the look on his face when he comes home and realizes that Alex is there talking to his wife when she was interested in the apartment.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go with that shot.
That's a great one. Dustin, best shot.
For me, it's the smash cut to the sex scene. We don't have a ton of sex scenes on our movies, and so they don't get talked about a lot. We talked about it a little bit. I thought it was good. I know that we discussed kind of the weird directorial choices, but I thought it was good. I thought it's kind of like enough of what you needed there.
You're right, that doesn't come our way very often. True Romance had one, but we don't have that come our way very often. LA Confidential did. That's a Tyler movie.
Yeah, I think just the faucet being turned on and then getting it's not sweat, perspiration, wetness. It's like we're putting the water, she puts the water on her body and his. I thought that was this is pretty good. And so because we don't get that so often, it needed a space in our super.
My best shot, Tyler tiptoed around it. The elevator shots are good. There's silhouettes. There's additional lighting on their feet and the angles in which they're going there. It doesn't seem cheap because it's good camera work. It's handled seriously and it's done well. And it does seem like it's a lost opportunity for Aerosmith to come in with Love in an Elevator. I'm kidding on that. They didn't do that, and that's why it was done well. So good.
And that's why it was done well.
Best scene, Tyler.
Because it sticks into my head so much. It's the scene where she slits her wrists. The "Why are you wet?"
Yep, yeah. That's a major turning point. This movie has a number of turning points, but that's probably the most abrupt and unforeseen one.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, Dustin.
I think just to tap into the things that would strike fear into our families in the audience, it's when Beth realizes, and we as the audience realize, that Alex has picked up Ellen from school. The absolute worst thing that could happen to a family, right?
I'm glad you pointed that out. That's the part where I was most afraid. I was just like, oh no.
When Tyler, when you mentioned your parents walked out, that I could see that being the reason why.
I could. I mean, it was done so real too. Ann Archer goes to the school and it's just like, "Where's my kid? How did you lose my kid?" Like that stuff really sold it.
Yeah, not fun to watch, but necessary.
And I think there was even they asked another kid there, and the kid was like, "I thought you picked her up." Even the kid was like, "I thought you had her."
Yeah. That hits me hard. To be honest with you, as a parent, I'm just like, my kid's not that age yet, but I mean, it's just like, I was most at the edge of my seat on that scene.
Yeah,
for sure. Again, I'm not as worried about what happens to Dan. I'm more worried about what happens to Beth and to his kid. My best scene is when Alex poses buying the apartment. It was Tyler's best shot, but the whole scene, it's brilliant. This woman has come in and is sitting right in front of Beth in his house. She has invaded not only his work, but now his house. And she has also taken away his out. I'm moving. I'm changing my phone number. I can get out of this, which I still think is short-sighted. He still has to go into the office. He's really not really out of this. She's going to find him. but in his mind, that's his out, and it's taken away from him. And you can see the deflation in him, and you can see it's also met with the same, oh crap, this is all going to come on out right now. And Beth is very happy. The juxtaposition, like she truly has no clue, nothing's being let on. This is when that is at its finest. Just the camera work, but shooting both of them at the same time, back to his face. He said, I got to go lie down. I think we all need to go lie down after that scene. It's intense.
Yeah, great scene.
Tyler, do you have a favorite wardrobe moment?
Again, another thing that I didn't necessarily notice, but I think it stands out is at the end what Alex is wearing because of what she's doing with the knife, and what that to me I think is what sticks out.
Yeah. Dustin, best wardrobe makeup moment.
I have one for her and one for him. For Dan, I really like his sort of loose denim shirt with jacket over top. A look that maybe made it through the mid-90s, but has, not really a thing anymore, but I very comfy look for me. For Alex, actually, I'm going to go with the first time you see her in white, and she's got like a cream-colored umbrella. Like, you don't see that like parasol-style umbrella like color. You see dark umbrellas. That's what you're used to seeing. So that being kind of almost like a shocking mirage in the middle of this cold scene. I like the first striking wardrobe moment for our female leads, and that one was striking.
And mine's going to be Glenn Close's hair. I did mention this earlier, but I mean, it personifies her. But even when you first see her in the restaurant, like, I'm wild and crazy. But also, maybe this is something you shouldn't play with. There's something dangerous about her, even right from the get-go.
I choose to look like this on purpose. You think
Yes.
I'm going to get scared?
Exactly. So, Glenn Close gets it for the hair there. Change one thing, Tyler.
So originally I had some of the filmmaking aspects of, like, I think Dustin called him out already, like, get rid of some of the cop stuff, or could we have gotten rid of actually showing Alex in the background stalking him rather than leaving it more of like, is she here type thing, like,
yeah,
playing with our own psyche as an audience. But then I thought of something else which I think could be interesting. I don't know if this ever was a thought. I know they listed, I think on IMDb they had a list of a lot of the directors that they considered for this. But I'm going to go with having a female director.
Okay. All right. It's upsetting for Dustin, his MVP.
Well, maybe it could have been a female director that was also like the 21st choice, like, and then this female director goes on to do a lot of similar other movies, and
yeah,
it ends up working out overall. I
think you need that cop stuff in there too, by the way. I think that's one of the things that makes it realistic.
Yeah, and actually, on our next category, I'll get back to
that. Dustin, change one thing.
I wish that the crux of their conflict was less dependent on the pregnancy. I feel as if that got too much of the discussion. Of the lion's share, the discussion was the pregnancy. It's a very real, let's just use homeboy speak, it's a very real scare for the guy. That's how she gets you, right? And that's not how I feel, but the idea is that's part of what this is. Presented to our audience is that, well, now you're really in it. It's not just about the stalker babe. It's also the idea that, you didn't wrap it up. Because of that, you have to deal with this consequence too. And we get to the part of the discussion where it's that's
a great choice.
I'm gonna
in a movie filled with a lot of bad decisions or big bad decisions. That's another bad decision.
And then he says, like, don't worry. I'll pay for the abortion. She's like, no, I'm having the kid. Like, it's already scary. It's already thrilling without this added part. I don't feel like it must be eliminated. I just think we shift the focus away from the pregnancy. It's a total of a minute's worth of dialogue that gets changed to something else. So I think that would make it slightly better.
Interesting. It's possible that it could do the big thing of just the ending, but I'm going to be a little more specific and just say the reanimation of Alex coming out of the water. He drowns her under the water, and then she's done. She's under the water for quite some time. He's sitting on the floor going like, I just strangled a lady and drowned her in my bathtub. I'm going to have to live with that. And then she comes back out like, I'm going to kill you. And like, I was like, that is straight up Jason. Maybe walking around with no pants on and a shirt and carrying a woman to the bedroom is kind of funny, and that doesn't belong in this movie. But I know this doesn't belong in this movie. And it's funny that he said the white contacts bothered me. same scene. Like every move there bothered me, and I guess they paid him $1.5 million to feel better about it, which would help me feel better about it. But it's frustrating. I think the other ending was the way to go on this one, and it's most evident with that cheap thing. I said you had to look past something else somewhere else. I think you also have to look past that too. There's something you need to get over with early with them falling into this situation too easily. We know we want a happy ending or whatever, but that last little thing, that's not good. Don't do that.
Well, and I think you said this earlier too. You can still have the moment where Beth is the one who kills Alex. You like that. That is still an effective moment of
come
that
in and
ending.
just have her come in and shoot him. Like Dan's can't even get his umbrella up. He can't kill her. She's too cool. Beth's got to come in there and shoot him for him. I like that better.
I still don't know if the movie's happy at the end. It is over, but I think that there was a real purpose to the zoom in on the frame of the happy family and kind of like freeze frame as the credits go over it. I think that I don't know that ending is necessarily happy.
Oh, you're thinking it's like The Graduate, where they like they let the camera roll just about 10 seconds longer than normal movies, where they kind of like they're smiling, and then they kind of look down like, where are we now?
Well, yeah, it's that's a good like mention, is that like we don't really know if it's a happy ending, and we didn't think it was an unhappy beginning. Like it was fine.
Yeah, very
Things
true.
were fine, and then mistake.
Yeah, great point. Now, best quote, Tyler.
I'll edit this down for the audience, but it's a quote between Alex and Dan where basically she's, "Please don't justify yourself, it's pathetic. If you'd tell me to F off, I'd have more respect for you." And then he goes, "All right, F off."
Yeah.
And it's kind of played as like a bantery moment, but also I think it perfectly encapsulates why we're there in the first place and why everything kind of happens.
Dan had one card up his sleeve that he didn't try after that, because that's pretty subtle. Make yourself undesirable. Like come in like belching and it's like, you haven't showered, you smell terrible. It's like, that's how I roll.
That's true. He did not try.
I don't shower on the weekends. My business makes me shower enough during the week.
And I leave the bathroom door open. You're welcome.
I gotta say, like, what that particular quote does is it shows us, the audience, and it shows us that she knows the rules. She knows how, like, the cool affair that we both had some fun and could be over. Like, she knows how it is supposed to go. Just let this be over, and deliberately chooses not to. She knows that she is playing a game with a different rule. I just think it's manipulative and effective and good. Good choice.
Dustin, best quote.
This is actually from that sheriff dude, Pacelli. He's speaking in pronouns as if like it's not his issue, right? Dan is talking about like, say I have this friend that has like a situation going on. And Pacelli's response is, I think, what we actually started the maybe plot discussion section of the podcast with, which was, it's his bed. I'm afraid he's going to have to lie in it.
Yeah.
It kind of summed up to what I thought I got from the both of you earlier, which was like, yeah, he did this kind of like, we're not ever really on his side. We don't feel redemptive towards him. He's not easy to be empathic with or sympathetic to. It was like, he messed up. He's paying for it. And that's what the sheriff dude says to him.
Yeah. This movie doesn't work either if they don't threaten his wife and child. Like, that's what was so smart about it. Like, to your point, Dustin, I'm not sure how much I ever really came around to, like, I'm really worried for Dan Gallagher. But they extended the threat.
Right.
That, what you just said, where I don't know how much I actually care about him, weirdly plays into how this movie plays differently now. Like, it perfectly fits into why this movie is such a good discussion point, not just as a capsule of the 80s, but looking at it today as well.
Very true. I thought this was just a little foreshadowing moment. He plays dead, which is a horrible, dumb, like fakes a heart attack. I mean, he's not...
In the park.
Yeah. Which, by the way, maybe that would have been his other way out. Like, Weekend at Bernie's your way out of this. It's like, have his friend be like, yep, he's real dead. What'd he die of? Deadititis?
But even
Like, kills 100 times.
but even then, like, just her response to, like, my dad died of a heart attack, and like that whole thing, and then she like laughs and is like, was that true? She's like, oh, could be.
That's that, and that's where this line comes in, Tyler. He says, or he then goes, well, you certainly got me, didn't you? Which is, again, out of context, but another smart foreshadowing line. There's a lot of those little things. Like, that line doesn't mean that, but it means something else in the greater picture of things, and it has weight far beyond this. You go through it, you'll find those, and I like those moments where it's more profound later. That's good screenplay writing. That's good dialogue. So, Tyler, we want to thank you for coming on the show, and tell us one more time where we can find your movie reviews on After the Credits.
It's afterthecreditsblog.com. Trying to stay up to date and keep the reviews coming.
Awesome.
Save people the trouble for looking up your review for Fatal Attraction. On a 5-star scale, half-star rating, what would you rate Fatal Attraction from 1987?
I've been going back and forth. I know it's at least 4 out of the 5. I know it's at least 4.
The discussion part of this podcast really can make your rating fluctuate, like what you went in to the recording with and what you end up with all the time.
It's at least a 4. It might go up to 4.5. I think it's very, very effective, very smart. It knows what it's doing. I'll go with 4 for now, but know that could very easily be a 4.5, depending on my mood.
Dustin, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. 5-star scale. What's it going to be?
I'm going to land at 4.5, 4.5 stars here. There were the things we mentioned in the show. Very easily gets into this affair when seemingly everything else is good. The ending that kind of turns psycho thriller, qu'est-ce que c'est, it definitely seems like not incomplete, but of the things that it excelled at, there were places where you could see that improvement existed. But I absolutely adored the movie, and I still got some time on my rental. I might even watch it again after the podcast. 4.5 for me. Very, very impactful, good movie.
I'm pulled here, and I'm gonna give this a 4. I think the better ending probably could have gotten this all the way up to a 5. That's a big swing, but I mean the ending and the ease of which they fall into this. We have nitpicked, I think, throughout this a little bit, but I think that those are the things that just almost go there because it's so well directed, so well acted, and everything that it does do well. Certainly, I mean, we actually pull out some big flaws in this, and like those sound like you're on road for like a 3-star rating, but it's because it's done so well in every other regard, which is why Tyler's probably teeter-tottering in that 4.5. I myself, not kidding, wrote 4.5 down, but the more I thought about it, and particularly that ending is what kind of like made me kind of go like, nah, I like this other ending a lot. We had it taken away from us. So I wish the studios had kept their $1.5 million. I think it's very possible Glenn Close is more considered for her Oscar at that point.
I would agree. This would be home run with that original ending. Home run.
Well, thank you so much, Tyler, for joining us. We had a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. It's always good to stop in and chat movies.
Dustin, you want to help me pick a movie for next time?
I'm ready.
All right. Our Oscar season will continue, and we have 3 options here. A River Runs Through It from 1992. 2 sons, a stern minister, one reserved, one rebellious, grow up in a rural 1920s Montana while devoting themselves to fly fishing. Option 2, Revolutionary Road from 2008. A young couple living in Connecticut suburbs during the 1950s struggled to come to terms with their personal problems while trying to raise 2 children. And option 3, Almost Famous from 2000. A high school boy in the early 70s is given a chance to write a story for Rolling Stone magazine about an up-and-coming rock band that he accompanies with them on a concert tour. So 3 Oscar-nominated movies.
Going with Almost Famous, option 3.
Not quite famous. Not quite.
The name of the tour.
Thank you guys so much, and thank you all the Lords, Ladies, and Knights of the Retro Movie Roundtable. We invite you to reach out, subscribe to us. We want to hear from you, so subscribe, rate, and review to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast. Give us a like on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at @movie_retro. email us at retromovieroundtable@yahoo.com. Thank you so much for producing and providing this podcast. It's fun, but not free. So we invite you to support the show at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/Retro Movie Roundtable. You can pay us $1.5 million and we will make the show into anything that you want.
Even Retro Book Roundtable.
It could happen. It could. Right under my feet. As always, thank you for listening. Be good to each other and watch more movies. Dustin.
Is it you? My great and worthy opponent? But it can't be. Not this pitiful, spineless, pasty, bloated codfish I see before me. You're not even a shadow of Peter Pan.